Don't be fooled by the private school debate. The family, not education, has the greatest impact on England. There was a lovely old photograph doing the rounds after the Sydney test, showing 3 members of the Bairstow family. There was David, Jonny's late father, on the right in his batting stance. He was touching heads lightly with Andrew, Jonny's elder brother, on the left, who was also in batting stance, using the same make of bat. Between them, in the middle, was Jonny. Wearing a blue t-shirt and check shorts, Jonny must have been no more than 4 years old, and he too was in batting stance, with the same make of bat, albeit one many sizes too big. The Sydney test was a good one for Jonny, who scored 100 in the first innings and a gritty 41 in the second, an emotional one too, no doubt, as it began on January 5th, the anniversary of his father's death 24 years earlier. When Simon Wilde wrote his biography of the England cricket team in 2018, he calculated that 10% of all male England cricketers had been related to each other. There had been 13 fathers and sons, 2 grandfathers and grandsons, 11 sets of brothers, 4 uncles and cousins, and when Sam Curran became Test cap number 686, his was the 33rd family to have provided more than one cricketer for England. The number may sound high, but it is not surprising and has nothing to do with nepotism. The uncertain balance between nature and nurture, one that will continue to baffle scholars and provoke argument, is evident in the many examples on which Wilde drew. Genetics may give a significant advantage. Growing up in an environment where there is an interest in, or love of, sport certainly must. I mention this rather obvious point because with the arrival of Sam Billings in Hobart and the success in Sydney of Zach Crawley, there will probably be mentions about the preponderance of privately educated players from wealthy backgrounds within the England team. This story is given oxygen from time to time, and dictates a narrative that the game is an enclave of the very posh, privileged, and privately educated. Billings and Crawley do come from wealthy families and were privately educated. Haseeb, Hameed, Joe Root, Ollie Pope, Rory Burns, Stuart Broad and Bairstow were all privately educated too. 2 years ago it was calculated that 32% of county cricketers came from the private sector, set against the national figure of 7%. That cricket is not played widely in the state sector is an obvious fact. That the game should make every effort to ensure it is tapping into the broadest possible talent pool, across all sections of society, is also a statement that should not need emphasizing. That cricket, more so than football, say, has higher barriers to entry in terms of the cost, complexity, and requirement of space is also an unfortunate fact. But the conclusion that private schools offer a defining advantage for young cricketers is a wrong way of looking at the issue. Good young cricketers do not emerge miraculously from private schools. Good cricketers go to private school. This is obvious in cases such as Hameed and Root and Jos Buttler, who all received scholarships on the back of already attained cricketing excellence, but will be true for many others too, who are not on scholarship. Family, club and county will have been the key. The influences on good young players are many and varied, but in a narrow cricketing sense school would be among the least important of them. There is a picture of Root in nappies, in his cot with a bat in his hand. He comes from a cricket-mad family, with his grandfather and father besotted with the game, a passion they passed on to Joe and his brother, Billy. Sheffield Collegiate Cricket Club was where Root continued to learn the game in the early stages of his state education and was also where Michael Vaughan played his cricket, alongside others who became first-class players. When Root was given a scholarship to Worksop College for the final 2 years of his education, school got in the way, preventing him from playing more often for the Yorkshire Academy in the local league, which would have been a better standard. Hameed's father, Ismail, loved the game and played as a semi-professional in the northern leagues for Huddersfield. After he moved from the small village of Umridge in Gujarat to Bolton, and provided for his family in their modest semi-detached, Ismail began to teach Haseeb the game in a concrete playground behind their house. He provided hours and hours of tuition that did not stop once Haseeb became a professional. Haseeb was so precocious, he was already playing for Lancashire under 11 age date. He maintained that association with Lancashire's age group teams throughout his teenage years, until offered a contract by the county club. By the time Malvern College tried to poach him on a scholarship at 13, he was already playing on the club circuit in Bolton as well, honing his talents against men. Yet Hameed is also presented as a statistic for the private school cohort. When the box gets ticked with his name as one of the supposedly privileged in this regard, all the other more profound influences are disregarded. Bairstow is a statistic, too, but his family initially and then the Yorkshire age group system were likely to be more significant for his cricket development than St. Peter's, York, the private school he attended. In this regard, there are similarities to Dan Lawrence, the state school-educated son of a groundsman at Chingford Cricket Club, who inherited his love of cricket from his family and benefited from having the club facilities on his doorstep. Lawrence lived in a house at Chingford CC until he was 13 years old. Everything he needed to become interested in cricket was on tap. How many of England's present team did not have a parent who was interested in sport? Unlike Hameed, Bairstow and Lawrence, Crawley and Billings are from very wealthy families. Crawley's father, Terry, is a self-made man from a humble background in the East End of London. He did not play cricket at school but developed a lifelong love of the game, which he passed on to his son. Zach was already a fine young player in the Kent system before he walked onto the field at Tunbridge.